Come, whoever you are. We are all and each of us welcome here. You are welcome here. Your age, your size, the color of your eyes, the color of your hair or of your skin, all of you, inside and out, is welcome here. And so am I. No matter your gender, whom you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, all of you is welcome here. You are welcome with laughter in your heart or tears in your eyes. Whether you believe in God all of the time, some of the time, or none of the time, you are all welcome here. No exceptions. Once I was a stranger here and found a deep welcome. My heart was glad, and each Sunday now it is renewed again and again. Together we are a community of open minds, loving hearts, and willing hands. Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. My name is Caitlin. My pronouns are she and her. I am an average height, pale-skinned, red-haired woman with a purple dress today. And I am so excited to be your worship associate today. Our worship leader is Reverend Lora, who we are still is very excited she's back.
Well, good morning. I'm Brenda Voisart. I'm a tall white woman here today as National Treasure Dolly Parton. Dressed in my fringed cowgirl top, sparkly skirt, and boots as Dolly looked in the dream sequence in the movie 9 to 5, where she lassos her boss. Enough said on that. I'm here because we have a rip-roaring good time coming up on November 8th at 7 p.m., our annual auction. Who's already planning to come? Yeah! Okay, everybody else needs to come too. And it is Movies in the Moonlight. So you can dress as your favorite movie character from your favorite movie, or not, because you get to do whatever you want when you're at South Valley. This is an opportunity for us to donate items, experiences, and parties, bid and raise funds for our beloved community, and have the chance to spend time with each other through the year on these things that we buy. For instance, Maureen and I are giving a chance to go to the International Peace Gardens. I don't know if everybody knows we have that. And it's special to us because when Maureen was a kid, her dad built the replica of the Matterhorn while she played nearby, and it's now Daddy's Mountain for her. So we're going to do that if you want to bid on that. So go to svuusauction.org, our new website built this year by Kristen May. Is she in the room? No, but she will be later because she's going to have her laptop in case you'd like help. But it's a fabulously easy website. And this is the location to get your tickets, give your donations, and then come have fun on November 8th. We have a live band from our own South Valley folks. Pete's one of them right there. He plays a mean keyboard. And a children's auction downstairs and food and drink upstairs. And remember, what would Dolly do? Give generously and often, with love.
Thank you, Brenda. The other announcement this morning is there is a potluck after service, so feel free to head on downstairs. I'm sure there's going to be too much food. There are many, many, many other things going on, and if you want to know about them, you should be getting our happenings email. If you're not getting that, you can email our office, and we'll get you on that mailing list. We are going to take a minute to greet each other, and first we're going to greet our online community. If you can turn around, wave hi and good morning. We're so glad you all have found us today. And then if you'd like to take a few minutes to get up and greet each other with joy.
Amen. As we light our chalice, a symbol of our faith and the light of our commitments to love and justice, receive these words of invocation by Pamela Sneed. The poem is entitled Robben Island. The only antidote I may have to Trump's election is in a small ferry to Robben Island, one that shuttles you to the former prison where those who fought against apartheid were held. The only answers may be in one wool blanket, a basin, toilet, cell, and the tiny windows of Robben Island. In the discarded artillery, the rock and the limestone yard where many were blinded, driven mad, now the survivors, former prisoners, and guards give tours. Their faces carved like tree roots exposed. The only answers may be in the surrounding peaks of Table Mountain. Its 12 apostles, all now standing as testament to what through years of struggles can be defeated and overcome. I'm gonna let you sit down for just a second and then we'll light our chalice. I'm the Reverend Lora Young. My pronouns are she and her, and it is good to be back among you. I am a tall, white woman with red hair and purple glasses, and I happen to be wearing some shoes I got at the auction a few years ago. We live in complex times, and together this community is here to support, inspire, and encourage us to find our way through that time. One of the ways we do this is through the ritual of lighting our communal chalice, a symbol brought to us not so long ago, only 30 or 40 years ago. You may have thought it was much older. But let us light it now for the light of justice and the truth that is within. You may stand as you wish, and I'll invite my chalice lighters forward.
We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action, and the blaze of resistance.
Hello, I'm Marci Woodward. I am 5'4", white, short hair. And I've never introduced myself that way before. So today I just wanted to give an official from the board welcome back to Reverend Lora. So grateful to have you here. And during the time you've been away, the community has had opportunities to learn and grow, and there isn't time to tell you about all of them, but people stepped up to contribute, and we worked together to meet the challenge of, having you on sabbatical and accomplish our goal of keeping our community thriving while you were away. And I feel like we did a really good job with that. And it was nice to have some lay perspectives on the podium and perspectives that we otherwise might not have heard. And at the same time, we also were just reminded of the importance of having our minister and the consistency that you bring to our communication, having a deeper background, being able to grapple with certain topics and help us as a congregation grapple with those topics, and how well you know the congregation and know our needs and remind us both of our past and able to tie those past experiences into specific meaningful experiences in the present moment with whatever we're facing at the time. And So it's just good timing to have you back, and grateful for your work, and also grateful to all the people who did service for this community in Reverend Laura's absence. And we look forward to Reverend Lora, not to put too much pressure on you, but we look forward to you leading us to bigger and better things going forward. So welcome back.
Now I'd like to invite up Cam. We have another surprise.
Well, hopefully not too much of a surprise. This has been announced a little bit. I'm sorry, this is a little ad-libbing to mention a few other RE program items as well. We are doing a Halloween event on Halloween Day, Friday, 3:30 to 5. I emailed a whole bunch of you. If you didn't get my email and you want to be on the email list, please let me know. We're going to do pumpkin carving and trunk or treat. We'll do it downstairs instead of in the parking lot for obvious reasons. And then on November 8th, we do have a children's auction in which we will do a raffle for the children. We're still accepting donations. Things about $10 and below. Think puzzles or games or toys or squishies, whatever. And if you have any donations, please communicate with me. And the kids have a great time downstairs while the adults stay up here. So if you're on the fence and haven't been before, please come. We do have daycare for the kids and just activities for the kids. Lastly, what I'm actually up here for. We have our choir director, James Anieswender. He has graciously taken the reins for our children's choir. This will be our first performance. They've done fantastic. Just so you know, we've come downstairs before classes, practiced 10, 15 minutes some days, and we look forward to continuing this, and we're glad to have this ready for Lora upon her return. We invite the children to come on up, and we'll line up in front of the podium here. So don't come up on the stage, we'll line up downstairs. My apologies, you can see it's beautiful. If you need to stand up in the back row to see, feel free. All right, kiddos, come on up.
Okay, 2 lines. Welcome back, Reverend Lora. Thank you. Very excited. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out warning, I'd hammer out love between the brothers and the sisters, all over this land. If I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning, I'd ring it in the evening, all over this land. I'd bring out danger, I'd bring out warning, I'd bring out love between the brothers and the sisters, all over this land. I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, I'd sing it in the evening, all over this land. I'd sing out danger, I'd sing out warning, I'd sing out love between the brothers and the sisters, all over this land. Well, I've got a hammer, and I've got a bell, and I've got a song to sing all over this land. It's a hammer of justice, it's a bell of freedom, it's a song about love between the brothers and the sisters, all over this land. It's a hammer of justice, it's a bell of freedom, it's a song about love between the brothers and the sisters, all over this land.
I think as a first performance, that was the best thing ever. Thank you. That was amazing. It is now time for our offertory. The children are invited to stay up here today and be part of the service, so you're welcome to hang out in the kids' corner or with your folks, wherever you would feel comfy and happy. So this church and our community here is made possible by the gifts you give of your time, your talents like singing, and your treasure. And we take part of the gifts that are given and share them outside these walls so that we can live into our values in the wider world. Our split plate partner this month is Utah Community Action. Please join me in reading our offertory words. We are this church.
We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts.
We will now accept the offering. Folks at home are invited to use the online giving link. Folks here are also invited to use that as well if you wish. And I'm going to invite the ushers to come forward.
For all we have found the courage to give, may we be truly grateful. May these gifts be a blessing on the many ministries of South Valley and on the Utah Community Action. Our meditation this morning will be led by Caitlin.
As is my meditation practice, I'm coming down here with y'all. I'm going to invite you to get settled in your seat. Put your feet flat on the floor and find a comfortable place for your hands to be. In a minute, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. You can if you wish. If you wish to leave them open, that is also all right. This is your practice to do however you wish. I'm going to guide you, but if you have your own meditation practice that you wish to engage in, you are welcome to. All right, take a big breath in. Let it out nice and slow, and close your eyes. Today, we are having a conversation about power. That's a heavy word. What does power mean to you? When you imagine the shape of power, what does it look like in your life? Is it something soft? Is it something hard? Does it flow and move and change, or is it solid and immovable? If it had a color, what would it be? What is your power like? We all have power of some kind or another, in some shape or another. What is your power like? Where does it live in your body? Does it live in your heart? Does it live in your gut? Does it live in your voice? Does it live in your hands? Is your power something you are friends with, or something you shy away from? Do you feel like you have a lot of power? Or do you feel that your power is perhaps not so large? Is your power something that stands on its own? Or is it interwoven with the power of those you are in community with? Or perhaps both? We will be talking about power for a while, if not forever, in one way or another. And I invite you to connect with yours. And if it's not already your friend, perhaps that is a direction you can go in your own life, is how to make friends with the power you do have. And for those of you who are sitting here going, Caitlin, you are crazy, I don't have power, I invite you to have a look a little bit deeper, because I am sure that you do. Because we all do. And as I bring you back in a minute, I want you to keep the shape and color of your power with you and see how it shows up in the rest of your day today. I invite you to bring some movement back to your fingers, some movement back to your toes. Take a big breath. Let it out nice and slow. And when you are ready, open your eyes.
Last spring, my colleague, Pastor Bridget Weir, and I wrote a letter to the editor in response to the rapid increase in deportations under the Trump administration. And it was never published, though we certainly tried our hardest. After 4 rounds of edits requested by the opinions editor, a strange thing to begin with, to have a letter edited. We made the decision to just let it go. It was extremely frustrating. We felt we were being held to a seemingly impossible standard, one that others publishing letters do not have to adhere to. In the past, letters by progressive clergy were fairly easy to arrange. So we do not understand exactly why this letter and this change has occurred. We do know that the board of directors at the paper has shifted dramatically, and that recently there was a new opinions editor hired. Perhaps this change in access is a result of that shift. Perhaps it is not. Directly influenced or not, we recognize that a shift in dynamics has indeed occurred. And we see shifts like this all around us right now. Most far more terrifying, of course, than a rejected letter to the editor. There is right now a wide and pervasive abuse of power happening. To call it unprecedented seems so 2020. And yet, here we are, surrounded by an unprecedented attack on the foundations of our democracy and the rule of law. To listen to the daily news is to understand that we are lost. We are barraged by voices of fear and upset, and there's a pervasive sense of hopelessness, turmoil, dysregulation that communicates to us that we should not even try, that our proverbial goose is already cooked. The pundits ask, what are we to do? Where is the leadership? Where is our hero? They yell. This gnashing of teeth has gotten, well, tiresome, do you think? For the truth is this: there never has been, and there never will be, a standalone hero that can save us all. There never has been, and there never will be, a standalone hero that can save us all. Liberation is a collective endeavor. The heroes and the saviors of the world can heal, can model, can teach, can point us in the right direction. But again, they do not save us. Salvation is a collective effort and a collective accomplishment. And it never happens all at once and everywhere at the same time, even though I know quantum physics says it does. Except in the case of yesterday. Yesterday, 7 million people showed up in the United States at No Kings protests in at least 2,600 cities across all 50 states, and there were additional protests internationally. That's up from 5 million in June. This is probably the largest protest ever in the history of the world. And you, my friends, were alive to witness it. And many of you were there yesterday yourselves. If you attended yesterday, give me a hand raise. If you wanted to attend and you weren't for some reason able to attend, raise your other hand. I was on this side. I had an auction party that I was hosting. We had a lovely time. Now, many of us have asked, what is the purpose of a protest such as that, even one attended by 5 or 7 or 10 million people? Why do we do it? What does it accomplish, really? This is a valid question and an important consideration when deciding to use public protest, because we all know that protest in and of its own is not effective. However, Protest combined with advocacy in the courts, the legislature, at the ballot box, in one-to-one conversations with neighbors and friends helps to foster the conditions for change to occur. And protest is the visible signifier of the hundreds and thousands of other efforts we cannot see. It is a powerful tool for collective communication. How many of you remember the day that gay marriage was finally legalized in the United States? It was a day of celebration. It happened to take place during the General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and I was in Rhode Island that day with colleagues, and the joy that erupted in that assembly of 5,000 Unitarian Universalists was powerful and palpable. Many people on the outside of that advocacy effort seemed to think that this accomplishment sort of came out of nowhere, and wasn't it great? I mean, most of us think it's great. Majority of Americans think it's great. There's a few that don't, and we don't have to worry about them because they're boring. And as Oscar Wilde would say, only dull people are brilliant at breakfast. Many people were quick to celebrate that accomplishment as if it came out of thin air. But for those of us that were part of that advocacy effort, whether we were an ally or directly impacted by that, know that it took decades of dedicated work by thousands of people in thousands of different venues to make it so. Or perhaps you remember that failed coup that happened in South Korea in December of 2024. That was stopped within a matter of hours. Martial law was announced at 10:30 a.m., and by 1 a.m., the coup was defeated. The pictures of thousands and thousands of South Koreans showing up to say, nope, was astounding. That kind of solidarity, that kind of showing up, doesn't happen by chance. It happens because people were organized over many decades to make it so. So it is critical to remember that displays of visible collective action are always the result of massive organizing efforts, often over decades. So that's why you participate, because you are acting in solidarity with those who have dedicated their lives, their resources, their time, their treasure to making these kinds of changes possible. Protest also is a means of creating not just visibility, but of stoking the public imagination, of applying pressure on elected leadership and reminding us that we are not alone. Public protest allows us to encourage one another. And as a bonus, the signs, the costumes, and the fashion are amazing. We remember the Boston Tea Party as a moment when cases of tea were thrown overboard. We forget the years of effort that went into resisting unfair taxation without representation, and how that moment was key to creating the conditions by which this nation was born. A nation that every single one of us in this room dearly loves. A nation that is in trouble right now. A nation that is led by a president that really wants us to think we are powerful only through him and for him. He wants us to forget how powerful we truly are when we work together. We know, don't we, how powerful we already are? We know we are much more a nation that is full of people organizing, of fighting, of advocating, and of resisting, so that we do not fall into authoritarianism. We are a nation that knows at its core that the power of the people has always trumped the tyrants of the world. You're welcome. If we seek, though, to be effective in our resistance, we must understand power, how it works, so that when we exert our power personally and collectively, we are responsible in its use and in its impact. And I think before we go deeper into the kinds of power we have collectively and individually, it's critical to frame this conversation with a sense of gentleness and awareness. Power is real. You know it when you see it or you feel it. Its impact has real and lasting effects on the outcomes of our lives, and not all of those are positive. I'd like to name my own power here also. As your minister, I hold positional power. It is supported by my training and studies in preparation to fulfill this office, but it is limited by design. In our tradition as Unitarian Universalists, we are ordained, called, and installed by the people of the congregations we are a part of. I'll say that again. In this tradition, we are ordained, called, and installed by the people. By the people. So while I may personally also feel that my calling to ministry has a sense of the transcendent in it, that the God of my understanding participates with me in this calling, the actual authority of my office only comes from you. When I took the vows of installation to be the minister in this congregation, they were between me and all of you. During that installation, my colleague, the Reverend Julia Hamilton of Santa Barbara, shared the following. She wrote, "There is no generic Unitarian Universalist congregation, no generic Unitarian Universalist minister, no generic thing called faith. There are only and always specific ministries. This congregation, this minister, this faith that lives and moves right here in our very real, very particular beating hearts. The promises we make to ourselves and one another and the earth that we share. The covenants we create are grounded not in an ahistorical, dislocated, disembodied place, but in the real world, the world we inhabit today and right now. My hope is that this ministry, this congregation, is one of healing, encouragement, and growth. And my goal is to embody this office of ministry that you have installed me to with humility, awareness, gentleness, and the deepest of care for the trust you place in me to hold this position. I serve by the calling of this community, and I expect you to hold me accountable to this. And it goes beyond that. Ordination is not just for the office of the minister. Ordination can be understood to broadly be the calling that all of us have to love and to serve the world. Now, I know the word calling is complicated in the LDS tradition, so it's not the kind of calling I'm talking about, right? It's not the one that God talks to me and then tells you to be on the hospitality committee. That's not it, okay? We are all ordained to serve the world with kindness and compassion because we choose for it to be so. And you can say no to the hospitality committee, by the way, if I ask you. We are free to find and ground this realness via our own search for truth and meaning in this tradition. Your ethical grounding may live in a deep connection to the sacred, but it does not have to in order to be real, authentic, or true. That is what we mean by our opening words we share each Sunday at the start of worship, that state that you can belong here whether you believe in God all of the time, some of the time, or none of the time. It is a powerful theological statement, a statement of your inherent worth, dignity, and yes, your power, and of the power we share to create the conditions by which we may thrive. If you and me and us are going to take action in this world right now to fight back against authoritarianism, it's important to know how much power we have and how we may act with it ethically. So I'm going to give you sort of a list of different kinds of power. It's not meant to be an exhaustive list, and there will not be a test at the end of the sermon. But as I read through them, I invite you to reflect and ask, which of these do you have access to right now, and how? Which of these do you expect to have access to later in your life? Are there any that are temporary or that you once had and no longer have? Which are uncomfortable for you to use, and which are comfortable to use? Okay, personal power. We all know that, right? This is an individual's expression of energy, vision, our ability to communicate, capacity to influence. It's our emotional intelligence, our psychological savvy, etc. Every single one of us in this room has personal power. That's in the core of our stated principles as Unitarian Universalists, that there is an inherent worth and dignity in all of us that cannot be touched, no matter what. We also have collaborative power, which arises from our ability to join our energy in partnership with others, in pairs, teams, organizations, congregations, etc. There is positional power, a product of organizational authority or position. This is often forgotten by people with the power, rarely forgotten by people without it. There's institutional power, which is the economic, legal, and political power that exists apart from individuals who work there at any one time, but it continues. The institutions such as the American Medical Association. There is cultural power. From the perspective of the dominant culture, this is the expression of cultural norms, conditioning, and privilege regarding race, gender, age, physical or mental ability, citizenship status, etc. And as with positional power, this is often invisible to the dominant group. To those with less power, it is a very real, everyday experience that makes life more difficult. There is also structural power, which is implicit and exercised through the collective power. So you sort of see there is connections across and between these. It is an expression of the dominant institutions of society. For example, a single police department represents institutional power in its community. In a police state, that same department becomes part of a collective structural power. There's also referred power, which comes from connections to others. There is expertise, which comes from having training and experience in a given area. There's ideological power, which is derived from an idea, a vision, or an analysis. There is obstructive power, which is the power of protest, right? The power to stop something from happening. And then there is transcendent power, that connection in our tradition that we say is beyond our understanding, that connects us to the mystery of the world, which some people call God and others prefer to just have it be a mystery. Now, that was a lot of different kinds of power. Again, there's not a test. But how many of you recognize some of those forms of power from either studies or your experience? How many of you have been on both sides of some of that power? You either have been in a position to influence something because of a position or because of a structure, or you've been in a position to not receive it. I think it's also good to mention here, because this is a religious institution, there are, of course, many examples, both now and in the past, where religious power was abused. In this congregation, is a reflection for many of you who came to this place because you were experiencing religious persecution or religious oppression. And that is real. Again, we hope that this place can be a place of healing and wholeness that reminds you of your dignity, your worth, and your power. This process of figuring out how all of these pieces and styles of power interact within us, the way they shape our conversations, the way they control and decide who gets what, when, and how, is complicated. And there is no sermon I could ever give that would remove that complexity completely. But we can have tools. And one of those tools is intersectionality, which is a really fancy word for saying power overlaps and intersects, and it shapes us for who we are. It was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, but the idea itself has a very long history in academics, advocacy, social justice movements, and theological and philosophical traditions. It's a framework. So whether or not you ever remember the word intersectionality or successfully use it in an academic paper, should you choose to go back to school at some point, you participate in intersectionality. It's this idea that who we are, with the groups we participate in, our social and political identities result in unique combinations of discrimination and privilege. And these intersecting and overlapping factors create both opportunities for empowerment as well as empowerment and oppression. That letter that my colleague and I wrote to the Tribune drew upon multiple sources of power in its content: cultural, expertise, positional, and collaborative, with a good dose of personal power from our general badassery as female clergy in the state of Utah. I don't know how many female clergy are in the state of Utah here, but I suspect it's only a couple dozen at most. Our letter was held back by institutional and structural power. And while it was disappointing, we did not let it stop us. We moved forward. We kept forward with our Justice for Advocacy work last spring, and we had a 6-week collaborative effort between multiple progressive clergy and many congregations here in Salt Lake City, where we wrote letters to the editor, some of which were published, not ours, but some were. We wrote calls to action that were shared on the same Sunday. We had a prayer vigil and a pride interfaith service, and we had a protest in the middle. It was the first protest I had ever had a major leadership role in, and it was our own Anna Renshaw that taught me what to do. We had about 300 people at the protest that day, and it was a ton of fun to pull together. Your signs were delightful, and your smiles encouraged me to keep on going. That is how we make change. We keep going. We keep going, and we support one another. We encourage rest, as you encouraged me to rest during my sabbatical, so that I may return with a full cup to you now, so that now you in turn can rest as well. Rest is a powerful form of resistance. It is part of that toolbox that we have to create the world that we know is possible for us. So while it seems, my friends, that our nation appears hopelessly mired, the turmoil that we are experiencing will not last. The threats to democracy are real, and the impacts of cuts to funding and programs that we rely on for a functioning and free society are real. The people who are being snatched and sent to detention centers, that is very real. The federal workers who are going without pay as we enter now week 4 of a government shutdown, That is real. And all of this distracts us from the problems that are pressing upon us, such as climate change and income inequality. All of that is real, and we tell the truth here in this congregation. And we do not, though, let that stop us from reaching out, from being compassionate with each other, and from organizing like hell to make a difference. Hopelessness is a choice, and it's not the choice we make here. We already know that the emperor has no clothes. Let us collectively, personally, and collaboratively remind ourselves and one another where our power truly arises from: the people. As Unitarian Universalists, we have the means and the prophetic vision to change the world. We have already been doing that for hundreds of years. And by our shared faith in this congregation specifically, in these beating hearts specifically, we shall continue to do so for the years to come. Let's organize like hell and seek a better and brighter future, one that transcends our limitation, seeks beauty and wonder, and is flushed with compassion and focused on justice. So help us, God, Goddess, and the unknown mystery of the universe and the inherent goodness of humanity to accomplish that bold and bright vision. And when the time comes for us to hand it to the next generation, may we do so with grace, knowing that we have been and continue to be the ones we have been waiting for. Amen, a woman, a people, and may it be so. And the congregation responds with, and so it is.
And so it is.
Amen. Let's sing. Number 1018, come and go with me as you can. It's a joyful song, so shake it all off. Look up, and you'll get it as we go along. It's a fairly easy tune.
Come
going to change our benediction and extinguishing of the chalice a little bit today. So I just invite you to sort of settle into this. If you feel like holding a hand of someone nearby you, I encourage you to do that. And if you just want to put your hand over your heart and receive, do that as well. So this call to action is adapted from the Justice for All call to action that was written last spring. And it goes like this. In this time of such chaos, confusion, and moral recession, when it seems that truly the world is bursting with anger, vitriol, loneliness, and strife, when we feel the specter of despair right beside us, as we wonder what will become of us and the world, we pause, take a deep breath, and look around to the people gathered in this space, this community of seekers, each of us longing for a renewed foundation of dignity and belonging that includes all without exception, is here right now. The world needs us now as much as it ever has. And so, in spite of our culture's emphasis on pride, wealth, and the bastardization of freedom, in spite of the world telling us that we can't or should not, we make a different choice. A choice to remain committed to truth and beauty, to bind ourselves by and to the values of compassion, love, and service to others. And we dare to dream a world rich in justice and overflowing with love. Therefore, with grace and humility and with a clear and bold purpose, we
stand, walk, roll, skip, dance, and sing loudly. And some of us kneel prayerfully on the side of love. We place our whole selves in solidarity with the poor, the marginalized, the oppressed. We dare to risk our privilege in service of others and elevate the voices of those who are overlooked. And we always remember that truly we are the ones we have been waiting for.
Therefore, call on our community to liberate itself from brokenness. We call on our community to cultivate its moral and ethical imaginations for the good of all. We call on our community to resist ideologies of judgment, fear, and violence. We call on each other to find joy in the midst, for joy is our birthright.
And although we never reach it perfectly, let us share laughter and love, make art and take delight in one another. Let us plant the seeds of kindness and compassion and harvest a just peace. It is a privilege to keep trying to love one another and to care for our neighbors.
It is trust, which some call faith, that carries us forward. It is a holy adventure that we pursue. It is soul work together that keeps us going. It is a vision of wholeness for which we work. May now our vision and our practice carry us, comfort us, and yes, deliver us to that place of beloved belonging. And all together now.
We extinguish our chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, the energy of action, or the flames of resistance. We hold each other in our hearts until we meet again.
Please be seated for the postlude.